Hey there, friends. I hope this is going live. I just read a post on Instagram, and I'm not going to out the person, but it reminded me of a phenomenon, if you will, that happens a lot in, I guess I could say, in the mental health community. When someone gets a diagnosis that explains the challenges they've been having for their entire lives. And I imagine that I experienced this too. There's a bit of a validation or a vindication in being given a label that basically says that this is not a character defect, that you have these difficulties. Now, in the case of ADHD, you have the convenience of the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistics Manual, that the psychiatrist invented to categorize the different anomalies that we may have with our brains that make it difficult to navigate our life in Western civilization. And the post that I read on Instagram was by somebody who was diagnosed in adulthood, which is very common these days. And they said that, let me go and look at it really quick. I'll try and paraphrase it. That they were diagnosed with ADHD, and upon giving the diagnosis, they now feel like they have the courage to go out into the world knowing who they truly are. Well, here's the thing. When a label such as ADHD is created, it takes a list of difficulties that a person has and it brings them together in a group and slaps a label over the top of it and pathologizes that group of difficulties, makes them an illness, makes them a syndrome, makes them a disorder. So this group of professionals has demonized this group of challenges. We don't do that to everybody. If somebody was clumsy on the basketball court, we don't say they have a movement disorder because they're lousy at doing free throws. Why don't we pathologize that? Why do we pathologize all these difficulties that we have with memory and organization and all that and call it ADHD? I would like an answer to that question. But the bottom line is we do. We treat people differently because they have these difficulties. We put it in a book. We develop medication for it to remedy it. We've created social stigma around people that have these difficulties. We've told them they need medication, they need special accommodations, they need to change their behavior, so on and so forth. To the point where we've been taught to think about ourselves differently because we behave in a different manner. So there's that. The point is, the same people that have told us that we have something pathological wrong with us because they have taken this group of difficulties that we have and slapped a label on and pathologized us. And they simultaneously have created the solution in cahoots with the pharmaceutical companies. Now, I want to preface this by saying that these solutions have been helpful to people, including my sons. So I don't want to completely demonize this. I want to give it some context to say that their agenda is not completely pure here, okay? But when you latch on to this label and you say, this is who I am, because this label is given some credibility because these smart people invented it and say that this is a thing. Well, these challenges are definitely a thing. I live with them every single day. But to say that this entity called ADHD is a thing in and of itself, like you can look at a planet and say, oh, this object exists. Or you can look at a vase and say this object exists. To think that this ADHD thing is an object, an entity that exists on its own is a misnomer. It's a concept that we create based on this label. So, in the absence of that label, who are you? Well, one thing that I reconciled within myself is take away all the labels, take away ADHD, dyslexia, Asperger's, everything else. What's left? What's left is I am a human being. And when I identify as a human being, that means I get to use everything. I get to use my strengths, my challenges, my vulnerabilities, my strengths. I don't have to pick and choose what I decide to share with the world. I've got a lot of colleagues that I love and adore who choose to identify with the autism label. That's the headline of their life. I'm autistic 24/7. And you'd think there's nothing else to them because that's what they want to talk about. And when I see them, I see a human being. I want to know everything. It's not to say that they have to shovel out all of their dirty secrets. That's none of my business. But I want to know who they are in terms of what moves them, what are their passions, what do they want for themselves, what impact do they want to make on humanity, how can I support them. I don't want to hear a list of their struggles, what was in their IEP in grade school, how all of the neurotypicals mistreat them. I don't want to hear about all the difficulties and everything that fits within the context of the autism label. I know there's more to them than that. If somebody has a diagnosis of schizophrenia, well, that's interesting, but I know there's more to them than that. I want to know the human being, and it's very important for people to get to know all of themselves, not just that one compartment. Now, yes, things like ADHD and autism can really have a global impact on your body. I mean, one of my sons is more profoundly impacted by autism than his brothers, but there's still a lot more to him than that. A lot more. But if you stop at the diagnosis and think, oh, this person's autistic and that's all I need to know, that's criminal. That is stereotyping, that is prejudicial because you're thinking that the label defines the individual. It's wrong for someone to do that to you, and it's even worse to do it to yourself. Because if you think the label defines you disproportionately, you stop looking any deeper. And you think that the world needs to know you through the lens of that label. The label needs to know you as an ADHD person, as an autism person, as a dyslexic person. Is that really how you want to be seen? You want to be seen according to your challenges, according to the accommodations that you need, as opposed to according to the strengths that you offer, the gifts you bring to the table. It's important that you have a very comprehensive and balanced view of yourself, that you see yourself as a complete human being with a profound amount of gifts to offer the world and the people around you. And yes, these diagnoses, if you will, or these qualities, these challenges that you have are part of the package, just like what everybody else has in their lives. They have things that they're not quite good at. But if when you see yourself as a human being, like everybody else is a human being, you can start by thinking, what I bring to the table are the same vulnerabilities, same needs, often the same fears as everybody else. You're starting pretty equal. You're not starting by thinking, oh, I wonder if these people are going to reject me because I have so many disadvantages, because I'm not normal. When you start from that standpoint, it's very easy for you to be excluded or think you're going to be excluded, especially when you've already othered yourself. But if you begin from the premise that we're all human here, let's connect from our common humanity, the barriers evaporate. And that's what I'm suggesting. That's what I'm encouraging you to consider for yourself is begin from that place of humanity. Connect from that level. I mean, I don't know if you caught wind of it, but I started this community called Wait Village. And wait is spelled WAITT. It means we're all in this together. And you can find Wait Village at waitvillage.com. It's a community based on this premise that people with disabilities or mental health challenges are human beings first. And we need to come together and discover that whatever label or diagnosis we've been given, it it can cause difficulties in our lives. It can make it difficult, but it doesn't rob us of our essential humanity. And it doesn't need to prevent us from having a fulfilling, loving, complete human experience. There are ways that we can tap into that fullness and really engage life and be happy. But we really need to learn how to tap into all of ourselves and have the confidence to go forth and say, this is me. I'm human with all of my warts and welts and all of my gifts. There's more to me to my diagnosis. And I know there's more to you than your challenges. Let's get to know each other. So, with that, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. So, please leave a comment. By all means, come over to Wait Village because I'm going to share this video in there as well. And I suspect we're going to have a pretty awesome conversation around it. So, thanks for watching and listening, and thanks for your feedback. And until we talk again, thanks for being you.